Daisy is a fourth grade teacher and it's flu season. She said that 2 students started out sick, but that number tripled every week. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and write the equation. We're going to make a table, and then we're going to graph it. So if you haven't already, go ahead and write that equation. Let's see what you think it is. So remember, for exponential equations, they come in the form of y equals, and then we do a times b to the x power. Let's see, I'm trying to match up the colors. So we have a times b to the x and b, where a is that initial value and b is what you multiply by. So it said that she said that 2 students started out sick. So as soon as I see how many started, that's going to be my initial value. So I'm going to go ahead and say that a equals 2. And then b is what you multiply by. It said, but that number tripled every week. To triple something means to multiply it by 3. So then I'm going to say b equals 3. To write that equation, we're going to just put y equals, instead of a, 2 times 3 to the x power. This says you started with 2 and it tripled every week. So I have to actually go ahead and label what x represents. X represents the weeks. And y always represents the total of whatever you're talking about. So in this situation, we're talking about students who are sick. So I could say sick students, or you could say 6 students in Daisy's class, 6 fourth graders, something like that. So this would be your equation with x and y labeled there. Moving on to making a table. So this should be on this portion here that I just boxed off is slide 12. We're moving on to slide 13, which is where you saw the video. So to make the table, I'm going to go ahead and take my x, y, and then I'm going to put random values for x. Again, I like to do 0, 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to go ahead and take that equation, y equals 2 times 3 to the x power, and I'm going to start replacing x with each of my x values in my table. So I'm actually going to do it all at one time. I'm going to start with y equals 2 times 3. We're going to make it to the 0 power. And then I'm just going to go y equals 2 times 3 to the first power, y equals 2 times 3 to the second power, and then to the third power as well. I'm going to do that one kind of down here. Y equals 2 times 3 to the third power. Okay, and then I'm going to solve each of these and plug them into my table here. Sorry, I know I don't have a ton of room. I kind of got a little messy with this. So I'm going to start by doing 3 to the 0 power. So any number to the 0 is 1. So then I have y equals 2 times 1. So y must equal 2. So when x is 0, y is 2. I'm going to do this in a different color. 3 to the first power is 3. Y equals 2 times 3, so y must equal 6. 3 to the second power is 3 times 3, which is 9. So then I have y equals 2 times 9, so y must equal 18. And the final one, 3 to the third power is 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So I have y equals 2 times 27. 2 times 27 is 54. And then that would be our table there. Again, remember, once we have the first term, we can check it by making sure what you multiplied by works here. So 2 times 3 is 6, that works. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 times 3 is 54. Okay, once we have all those values down on our table, the final step is to go ahead and graph it. So make sure you're doing this on a separate sheet of paper because you're going to have to post a picture of your graph. Or you can do it on Desmos if you'd like. So let me just quickly draw this graph. So remember to label your axes. Redraw that. So I want to draw what my, why isn't this straight? I want to label my x and y axes. Remember your x-axis is the horizontal one, so this is x. Y is vertical, this is y. Okay, and then we're going to plot the points of this table. On my x, I'm going to start at 0, go 1, 2, 3, and it does keep going, but my table only goes to 3. On my y, I need to show 2 and get all the way up to 54. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. We can go ahead and count by tens. It's going to be a little squished at the beginning, but it's all right. 20, 30, 40, and 50. And then up here would be 60. And then I'm going to go ahead and just plot all of these points. Remember, this is 0, 2, 1, 6, 2, 18, 3, 54. So going over 0 up 2 would be right here. Over 0 up 2. Over 1 up 6. Over 1 up 6 could be right about here, as long as it's below that 10 line. 1, 6. Over 2 up 18. Over 2 up 18 could go right out here. And over 3 up 54, so it goes all the way up here. Over 3 up 54. Then we connect these with a nice curve. So you could see this curve kind of shoots up right away. It makes sense because whatever was, the number of 6 students was tripling. So the number of 6 students is going to increase really fast, which is why this is such a steep curve. Okay, so we have our graph here. We can see that this graph is increasing. So I could say that right away. And then finally, I just want to label my intercepts. So my y-intercept, I abbreviated INT, and my x-intercept. So remember, your y-intercept is where your graph crosses the y-axis. So if I draw a line down my y-axis, my graph touches it right there at that point, which is 0, 2. X-axis, I'm looking where my graph is going to cross that x-axis, drawing a line here, and I see that this graph never crosses the x-axis, so therefore there is no x-intercept, or none. And that's pretty much it. We had this situation where it said that 2 students started out sick and that number tripled. We wrote the equation that matched, created the table, and then from that table, we made the graph here. In our graph too, we could even say that X represents the weeks again, and Y represents the 6 students. Sick. I'm going to put kids. So then we could follow patterns here. So we can go and look, okay, after 4 weeks, how sick are students be? And we could go up and find it on the graph and be able to estimate our values there. Okay, that's it for that one. Go ahead and actually make sure that you take a picture of your graph and that you post it onto the slide, please. And then make sure that picture comes out as clear as possible. Okay, this is the end of the first lesson. There are more lessons to come soon by this week, so please keep a lookout for it. Thank you.